see it. What did it say? Meeting is what?
Starting.
Hey, everybody. Good evening.
Hello,
Hey, Mike. How are you?
I'm good.
Hey, Karen.
Hi, guys.
Hi, it's Karen and Joe.
Hey, Joe.
I'm staying off screen. But I did get a new haircut today, just for you guys.
Lovely.
Oh, that's good.
I
Mike, you got a haircut too.
went to a new barber, the corner of Central and Osborne.
Okay.
It used to be, I think, like a pawn shop there.
Used to be a paint store, wasn't it?
Right?
What store?
Central Osborne, yeah, it was a paint store. And they
Yeah.
sold wallpaper there too.
Right. Yeah, we
Long time
got
ago.
wallpaper there one time.
Yeah,
Hey, Mike, I was
Yeah.
up north, I think, when you dropped by to leave a lawn
oh,
sign.
yeah, one hide signs, yeah.
Why didn't you just leave it?
Well, I suppose we should have.
You should have. I
Yeah.
watched you on Ring, but I didn't call out to you
Oh.
because I looked at it after the fact.
Yeah,
Well,
Do you still have
we had an issue where one of his signs was thrown down the street.
Really?
Why?
Yeah, I don't know, but it ended up leaving one yard and being found like 6 houses down.
Okay.
That's kind of crazy, especially since, well, like, does he have an opponent? I heard he might have one.
yeah, he has a Republican named Hammer. I've never met the guy, wouldn't recognize him if I saw him.
What is his name?
Hammer, Hammer, and I forget
Oh,
what his
okay.
first name is.
Like MC?
No. Mr. LaJoy, good evening, sir.
How are you?
Good, what's going
Good.
on?
So Rick, we don't have any any building permit applications for 60 Calvin, do we?
No, we do not.
Okay.
Mike, what'd you think of the block party? Pretty cool, huh?
It was nice, yeah, yeah. Victor Street is having one. It's not this coming week, but the week after, I
Okay.
And those are the only two that I'm aware of.
How long do you need to request to have a permit to?
Oh, usually
Yeah.
3-4 weeks out.
Okay.
But, some places I've just seen do lawn parties, without
Oh.
blocking off the street.
Mhm.
And that,
We have
that,
we have
that
new
doesn't get-
neighbors.
pardon?
We have several new neighbors, and it'd be nice for everyone to just meet.
Yeah, let me know, or
Do
just
you need
do
a
it on
permit?
some. Only if you're using the street. If it's a lawn party, you wouldn't need a
Okay.
permit. Hyde's Block has done lawn parties.
Okay.
Hey, hi.
Yes, how's everybody?
Good.
Doing good, thank you. I'm hiding over here in the corner, Hyde.
Hey, Joe.
I was just mentioning to Mike, you guys should have, well, you weren't there. I think it was Ray Joyce with Mike.
No.
No, it was Hyde with me.
Oh, okay.
Joe says we should have left the sign.
Mhm.
When we
I
went to
haven't-
Joe's house on Sunday, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was up north and I was watching you on Ring. So anyway, Hyde, if you want to drop off the sign, I'll also talk to my
Yeah,
mother-in-law.
drop off too.
Okay, thank you guys very much.
No problem. And I know we're not supposed to talk politics during a neighborhood association meeting.
This is just lawn decoration.
Well, this is just chit chat. The meeting hasn't started yet.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
Rick,
Dan,
thank you
good.
for your,
Dan,
Rick,
come
thank
in.
you for your help back when I was having the problem with the tree coming down.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. That worked out nicely. I can't believe that the city forester came to my house to check it out on a Saturday. I was very impressed with his level of activity, taking care of
And
that.
professionalism. He knows his stuff.
Yeah, he's got a lot of background in forestry.
Yeah, he's very bright.
So I had mentioned the meeting to Dan Webster, and I see he has signed on. Good.
Zach, the new paint looks good. Almost looks like a virtual background there.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
Looking sharp.
I've been so busy with this work at home job. I forget what color this room is. And I always wanted an office with a window, and I barely look out it. I just look at three flat screens all day long.
Wow. So, are we including any folks from Melrose or did it just go out to the UWANA list?
I went to UWANA and Pinebush.
Okay.
Melrose has a meeting coming up, Mike. I'll let you know when there's, and hide if you want to.
Okay. What's the date of the League of Women Voters candidate debate?
That'll be October 20th. I think at 6:30, Jody Kenny of Spectrum News will be the moderator. And
Okay.
it should be 6:30 to 8, and that'll be Kathy Sheehan, Alicia Purdy, and Greg Adela.
Okay.
What's the date on that again?
October 20th, 6:30. It'll be virtual.
Great, thank you.
It's
Yeah.
totally virtual. There's no live audience.
Virtual. It's tough with, the surge and the breakthrough infections going on.
Agree.
We can't risk the health.
I got my booster shot on Monday.
Congratulations, Mike.
Ooh,
Yeah,
Where'd you get it?
I got it up at Cross Gates. I didn't make a reservation. I showed up And the paperwork and getting in took about 20 minutes. And then the shot and then 15 minutes.
So you're Pfizer, right?
Yeah, you gotta
Pfizer,
be.
yeah.
That's the only one.
When do you think they're gonna do the Moderna?
They're waiting. If
I
they
don't
need
know.
approval. Maybe October, I'm hearing from the news,
Oh, today's
Yeah.
Well,
almost the last
late
day.
October.
Yeah.
Well, I think we'll get started since we've got Rick here. Don't want to keep him too long. Just a quick introduction. We have Rick LaJoy, Director of Building and Codes. I did give Rick a few questions ahead of time just to guide the discussion, but we'll let Rick kind of work through that, and then we'll see if anybody has any specific questions. So thank you, Rick, for coming tonight.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Like Hyde said, I answered some questions that were sent to me, but if there's more, here for as long as you need me. First set of questions came up were in regards to the construction at number 1 Colvin Ave next to the gas station. They do have, active permits. They don't expire till January of 2022. The work scope is to put that new entrance on the side of the building, which will also make it ADA compliant. And I believe the same, I'm not sure if it's the same fellow that owns that building, but number 3, for those of you that may notice some stuff happening at number 3 Colvin, they do not have any permits. And I've been over there twice myself and it handed them his stop work orders. They were doing work on a weekend. Mike brought to my attention some HVAC work up on the roof. While I was meeting with some neighbors on the street behind there, they pointed out some further work that was happening inside the building. So I went and I shut them down. I texted the guy today and told him, well, actually, I sent somebody over yesterday just to see if any work was continuing. I apologize. There didn't seem to be any work happening, but we issued him another stop work order just so he knew I was serious. So I texted him this morning and said, nobody's applied for any of these permits. You can't sit idle. You got to move on them. And he assured me that his contractors would be applying, ASAP is what he told me, but nothing came in as of today.
Yeah, the issue with the neighbors was potential noise. I mean, if they're quiet systems, then I suppose there won't be any problem. And then their question was they were mounting them. That building is very close to number 6 and 8, 4, 6 and 8 Buell. And I guess if they mounted them on the front of the building with some screening around it, or maybe they're quieter units.
Yeah, well, they are quieter. And the problem, and I went over that, is that there is no possible way to mount them to the front of the building because that building, although looks kind of level and flat from the front, actually has an arched roof. So he couldn't mount them to the front. But they are, I will attest, because they're supposedly the same units that he put up on the gas station, which are really quiet. So, there's nothing code-wise that could prevent him from putting him where he's putting him, et cetera. So he just has to apply to do it. He was trying to, get away with it on a weekend.
But do they have to be rated for silence since they're so close to?
They don't, but I can tell you again, the newer ones, they're super efficient and they are really, they are really quiet. So I don't believe the noise is going to be an issue. I did tell him also that should it become an issue or, if it's an issue at all, he may have to look at putting some kind of screen or fence or something around it to help buffer it.
Yeah. Well, I know the lady who lives at number 2 Buell has never complained about noise from the air conditioner that's on top of the old gas station. So that could be, if that's a predictor of the future, then he won't have any problem. I don't think.
Yeah, that's my hope. But
had you put
we'll deal with it.
in dog's bowl?
Only this morning, not the second time.
Okay.
Do you need it?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know when he ate, honestly.
Yeah.
There you go. Then there was a question posed about 60 Colvin Ave. no permits applications have come to my office as of yet. So I don't know the status of their, tech review through planning. I would hope that they will reach out to me and let me know that they've approved it when it's been approved. Just knowing that, all eyes are on this particular project, but I have not seen anything, and nothing's been submitted to our office as of today. Let's see. Then there was a question in regards to if there are any vacant buildings within your district, and if so, if there's any enforcement cases. So I pulled the list of buildings that are known to be vacant. So I can give you the update for each of them. We had 507 Bradford Street, which we have an open case against for not registering as vacant. And if they don't comply, by the time, I didn't see what the dates were, but if they don't comply, we'll send them to court. 117 Yardborough. We did cite them for failure to register. They also had some other violations for siding repair and window board ups and trash and debris. Let's see. 4 Roosevelt also was cited for failure to register as vacant. 36 Frost Place, also cited for failure to register as vacant. 176 Lincoln, they had all their permits for all the renovations that are going on there. None of the permits are closed out, and they've actually all expired over the last 30 days, different ones on different days. So I emailed the owner today just to give him a heads up that his permits have expired. He needs to renew them, and get them closed out. I did not hear back from him. 52.
Is that the place at the corner of Buell and Lincoln? Rick?
I think that is, yes.
They're doing a beautiful job. I'm very.
Yeah, it looks really
pleased
nice.
with what they're doing.
It does look good.
It's taken a long time.
I'm just hoping that they've called for their inspections. They haven't gotten too far ahead of themselves. But I put them on notice, and we'll deal with all that. 52 Yardborough. We actually have 3 cases currently in court dating back from 2019 up until in the last 30 days. We sent another case to court for failure to comply. We had cited them for not registering as vacant my bad. He did. That's the one thing he did finally comply with, is they registered it as vacant. But he hadn't taken care of any of the violations with the stairs and the windows, et cetera, overgrowth. And then 226 North Allen, that building has been bought recently by the Thomases, and they have an active permit to make repair to the sprinkler system that had frozen and burst last winter. And they are putting together their plans for whatever their intentions are with that building.
Rick, is that white building next to McVeigh?
Yes, sir, it is. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, they were getting pieces from Albany County, and then finally got the last piece just a couple of months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Let's see. So that was it for as far as vacant buildings. And again, once I go through the list, I'm happy to answer any questions we have. And then somebody posed a question in regards to if your neighbor's not maintaining the vegetation, or there's an issue with overhanging trees. If we receive the complaints about any overgrowth, we'll go out and look at it just to make sure there's no other violations to go with the overgrowth. But if it's solely the overgrowth, we forward that on to DGS, because if we cite them and they don't comply, we come back in 35 days, we send them to court. That's not going to take care of the overgrowth. DGS has the ability to cite them, give them a 5-day notice, and then come back out on their schedule, take care of whatever the issues are, and then bill the owner. As far as overhanging trees, now these always get a little funky, but a tree overhanging or overgrowing into somebody's yard is not a violation. If the tree is, once it crosses the property line, the property owner, or the line that it crossed, is now allowed to cut back and maintain, et cetera. We don't have the ability to force somebody to cut back their trees unless it's creating damage to a structure. So if their tree limb is growing into your roof, again, you have the right to cut it and take care of it. We can cite them again, it's not going to force them to do anything, unless they end up in court and the judge tells them so. In a worst case scenario, if the tree is hazardous, somebody was just mentioning, we'll bring in the forester, because if a tree's on private property, we can't do much about a tree unless it's a hazard, and it can only be deemed a hazard by the city forester. So if Jay comes out and says, yes, this is a hazard, they will also cite the owner, but we will follow up, as enforcement as well. Hope that makes sense to everybody. So that's all I have for notes, to answer any of the questions you might have, and I'm happy to, stay here for as long as you need.
I got a question. Recently, the council passed a ordinance expanding, I think, both yours and general services powers to correct, to shorten the time frame, and then to correct the complaints and put it on the tax bill. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so on our end of it, that had to do with items that would otherwise deem a property unsafe, unfit, and then ultimately result in us displacing the tenants and having to put them in a shelter or in temporary housing. So what I had found over the last few years of being here are, landlords, if they want to get rid of you, would often make sure their unit became unsafe, unfit, knowing that we would have to come shut them down. So they essentially were using us as a non-legal eviction. Because again, once it's unsafe, unfit, we can cite them for the violations, but there was nothing with teeth in order for them to make the repairs. So with the new ordinance in the legislation, we now have the ability for very specific items, if it's going to be something that would otherwise deem the house unsafe, unfit. So for instance, if your water, you have no water, something's wrong with the shut off and there's no water coming to the house. There's lack of heat or no heat, roof leak, anything that would become a hazard and make us displace the tenants. If the owner is unwilling or unable to make those remedies, we will do it and then bill the owner for it. It won't be cheap. It won't be cheap because we don't want to be their maintenance folks either. So we want it to hurt. If they're going to, not maintain their buildings, it's still their responsibility. And I do empathize with the owners who have not received rent, et cetera, the last year and a half, but they still have responsibility. So, so that was a great addition to the ordinance that gives us the authority in order to keep people in their house, or at least temporarily remove them while we make the repairs and then bring them back in. I think it's going to be very, very beneficial. I think it's going to, I've already had 3 instances in the last 2 weeks where it was just a mere threat that we were going to step in and make those repairs. And magically they were able to get the money and make the repairs so that we weren't there doing them.
Thank you. Anybody else? Questions for Rick?
I have a question.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to number 3 Colvin, that is the furniture store, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, let's go one building over, number 1 Colvin. That apparently is becoming a pizza parlor. I thought it was going to be attached to the back of the convenience store in the gas station, but it doesn't look like there's any connection. But my concern is signage. Do we have any restrictions on signage? I'd like to see really low profile signage so it doesn't impact the neighborhood negatively. Any
Sure.
signage issues?
Yeah, there are definitely signage requirements. Those are not dealt with through my department. That's dealt with through planning. So although the application will come through us, we hand it over, like we do almost all applications, go to planning to make sure that whatever's being proposed is allowable. And once they have their sign off, then we're issuing the permits and just overseeing the work that happens. There are definitely a lot of restrictions in signage, especially after they updated the code a couple of years ago. It's very, very strict.
Also, I'm noticing that the furniture store apparently is open. It's under the ownership of the people that own the gas station, the pizza parlor, and that house on Washington. They are selling, and cars are parking right in front of the building, which is sidewalk. It's always been an issue, that area of Colvin Avenue. Is there a way to create parking in their side lot? They have area available, and leave the sidewalk area open to pedestrians.
So the sidewalk parking is definitely an issue, and it's something that doesn't fall under us because they're on the city right away. That falls under APD to deal with.
Okay.
As far as them, creating a parking lot over there, that's really on the applicant or the owner to propose to us. And again, it's outside the building envelope, so that also would be reviewed and approved through the planning department.
Okay, so this is Joe. When they got their permits to turn the trading port into a pizza parlor / deli, did they submit any parking plans, or would that be planning and not building the codes?
It would be planning. I mean, we would have access to it as well. I'm just trying to see. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the only applicant that they have, or the only application that they have, is for creating that entrance. So I don't have anything on record of what they would call a change of use, so whatever the building was used prior, converting into a pizza. I haven't heard any of that. I haven't seen any of that. I'm just double checking the permit as we're talking.
Okay.
So Rick, would that be more before they got a CO? They would have had to been approved for the change of use? Or could it be that because it was commercial before, they just needed the building permit?
So, to be honest, I'll have to look. So whatever, I'm not sure what was in that building prior. I don't know. I mean, was it occupied before they started this renovation? I thought it had been.
It was a grocery store years back. The grocery store closed and it became an abandoned building, basically.
Okay.
Then someone purchased it and wanted to put in a smoke shop, which to my knowledge did not occur. And then there was some sort of office type business going on, or that was the last I heard. So
Okay.
It was not a deli or a pizza parlor, but it was a business of sorts.
All right. So the last CO that I see was it was allowed to be used as office and storage in 2014. Now I just want to see in 20. Yeah, so they don't have a use at all. So they haven't proposed. They proposed to put that entrance on the side, but there's no change of use permit at all. So I'm going to follow up just to see, what my building inspector knows about it, and I'll email you an update.
The zoning of mixed-use neighborhood edge, I think, allows a pizza place or, a fast food place.
Yeah.
But there's probably some parking requirements, and he does have the portion of the gas station.
I think back in the day when it was a trading port, the parking alongside of the building belonged to the trading port, or there was an arrangement with them, with the gas station. I can't remember which, but they had parking on the side of the building.
It was also a low volume business. It wasn't, something that people were pulling into and, staying for half an hour to eat a pizza or
Right.
20 minutes to pick up your pizza.
It was a great place to go get fresh meat, though.
Yeah,
meat
Leon.
department.
Leon.
Yep, we miss Leon, don't we?
Yeah, so I'm just double checking. Yeah, there's absolutely no permit applied for any use whatsoever, just to put that entrance over there, which is just kind of odd. So, but I'll follow up and I'll send you, an email or send it to Hyde and Mike, and you guys can, forward it on to everybody.
It sounds like this guy likes to fly under the radar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
he sure does. So he owns a few properties.
Okay.
Well, thank you for following up on that.
Yeah.
Anybody else for Rick before we let him go?
I have another couple of concerns, which I mentioned at our last UWANA meeting. When I walk around my neighborhood, I notice that people have paved over part of their lawns. Does the city require a permit to take over part of your lawn and use it as parking? And it came to my concern because when we had these torrential rains, we're flooding. So if you look at the collective use of lawn for parking, we don't have that surface area to take in water, and so we're going to have more flooding.
That's right.
Is the city doing anything? Do they require a permit?
So if a driveway is just being resurfaced, repaved, same footprint, not expanding, then it does not require a permit, not from our department. If they're expanding the footprint of that, they absolutely need a permit. The permit, again, we're just kind of the pass-through, so the permit would come through my department, and then we hand it over to planning, and they're verifying the allowable use there, because there's also requirements for lot coverage. You can only make so much of it, non-permeable for drainage for that exact reason. Plus, there's also codes about being able to park in front of your house, directly in front of the house, et cetera. So, if there's particular addresses, please feel free to reach out to me. We
We'll
go
give
after
you a list.
folks every day.
What does the city do when people have illegally paved an area? Do they make them remove it, or do
Yes,
they
ma'am.
just kind of say, "Yeah"?
Yep, so we do. We do make them remove it. Now, however,
Good.
we're very forceful, et cetera. We go after them, we find them, we'll send them to court where, the judge really has the ultimate control over it. If they totally just, are non-compliant, even after being fined, et cetera, we don't have the ability to go and take it up for them. That won't happen because there's liability issues. So it doesn't help the issue because you're still staring at it, but that's where we really, rely on the courts to, give pressure, go, because they can fine upwards of $1,000 a day per violation the entire time it's, in violation.
Great.
Well, what if a situation arises where someone did some paving, they didn't get a permit, and they get called out on it, and they say, all right, well, let me get a permit and just make sure that what I did was legal. Would you still make them tear it up first?
No, nope, no, that,
Okay.
we always start with apply for the permit, go through the process. And if it's allowed, that's fine. They'll pay a fine for doing it without the permit. But yeah, we won't make them pull it up and redo it if it is ultimately compliant.
That's reasonable. That's
Mhm.
very reasonable.
Yep.
Okay,
All right.
I was hiding again.
Thank you.
And I always offer to the neighborhoods as well, my staff, we constantly go out and do proactive inspections. So if there's, a group of you that thought it'd be worth having a few of my staff tag along and we can walk the neighborhoods where we're happy to do it anytime. We do it on the weekends, we do it after hours, whatever is, best for the majority of you.
Thank you. Certainly make that available to everybody. All right. I think we're good. Thank you, Rick, and I'll share the follow-up information if you could send that to me, and I'll get out to the listserv.
Will do.
Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Good to see everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. Next, I think we'll go to Dan. If you could give a APD update if anything's going on.
Yes, sir. Hope everybody's doing well. Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right,
Yep.
so I'm having some issues with my camera. I'm not being antisocial. I just can't figure out how to get it to work. It's a new laptop for me, and I don't know. This is twice now, but other than that, so I got a couple of different stat reports for crime stats. So first, I'll do the Pinebush, and when you eliminate Walmart from the crime stats, there was only 3 reported crimes in all of the Pinebush in the last month or so. So that's a good sign. So and they're larcenies. So larceny from vehicle is a very popular thing throughout the city. So everybody keep their doors locked and don't leave any valuables in the car. But yeah, Pinebush is pretty good. Walmart probably takes up 90% of our calls on up that way. And the other 10% would be car accidents. Upper Washington, that area, same kind of thing. A lot of larcenies, but it's Price Chopper, Hannaford, Home Depot, that kind of stuff. So other than that, we've had no robberies, no assaults or anything up in those areas. So that's a very good sign. I do a lot of meetings, and I can't say that about most neighborhoods. We did go over to Westland Hills with Mike, and we've been trying to get some extra manpower to come by on the weekends to break up any parties that might be setting up due to loud music and what we can do legally. Seems like it's slowed down a bit. Some of that's come with the summer. Maybe it's because we're going through, but that was one of the major complaints we had up in the area. Other than that, that's really all I have. If anybody has any questions, I'm sure people do. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, and thank you for the Westland Hills coming up. And there have been no major parties since you came up. And I even confirmed that with, say, a guy who lives right in the corner of Brevidor and the party who lets me know every single time that there is one. In fact, I invited him to come to this meeting. But I guess my question is, DGS did a very good job of putting boulders along much of the parking lot to actually make it impossible for a vehicle to drive through the park to get up to where they like to picnic. The problem is they either ran out of boulders, but didn't finish blocking it off. And my understanding is the city has a huge stockpile of boulders now because of all the digging down in Lincoln Park. They're doing a massive underground dig for the sewer system. So I know, I think it was Sal Sturreal did when I actually walked around the park and took pictures and submitted it to DGS as where the boulders are still needed. And then any other way of getting into the park is restricted with a locked gate. Obviously, DGS has to get in there to empty the trash containers and, mow the lawn and service the park. And but it has improved, and we appreciate, you're going up there and looking at it at the beginning of weekends when people who are planning big parties are starting to set up.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something in the future that would be a great deterrent. People always find a way, unfortunately, but anything we can do to make it more difficult, that's out, anything.
Yeah, like just keep asking Sergio about bringing up more boulders to line the parking lot a little bit more, so there is no way.
Yeah, we can hit him up again and see what he says. That sounds good to me. I'll give him a shout.
So Mike,
Okay.
when you and I want to have a UWANA picnic over there, and we're too old to roll the gas grill from the parking lot up the hill.
Then we could coordinate it with DGS to open up the gate.
Okay.
That allows vehicle access.
That makes
But
sense.
these are all there was not a single sanctioned party. Well, any party there this past summer was unsanctioned. There were no permits issued, and yet there were some big parties there with DJs and with cars driving to the playground to get up there. So But yeah, if there was a sanctioned party and they kept the noise reasonable, then they could be let in through the same way that the DGS trucks go through.
Sure. The best thing is if anybody sees anybody set something up like that earlier, the better. That just call 438-4000. It's better early. It's harder for us to break up late.
Yeah, well, you know,
End
a
up with
couple of
100 people,
people,
it's gonna be much more difficult.
a couple of people did, and I see Janine is on, and she's a neighbor, and John Switek is the closest neighbor, and he's the guy who actually would always send an email, and he would send it to APD, to me, to DGS, and I think he sent it to Rec too, and he sent it to the mayor's office every single time. And they would tell him to call, you know, the center station, and he would, the non-emergency number, and the police wouldn't show. Of course, the police wouldn't show up until 8 o'clock at night.
Yeah,
But
right.
but you guys, being the community police officers, have been the most have given us the most follow-up.
Yeah,
Than
yeah. Well, we'll try to
anybody.
stay on it. Anything we could take off of patrol's hands would be great. Because they're pretty
So-
overworked these days.
Yeah, so, but since we had that meeting before Labor Day, every weekend there's been no mass gatherings.
Good.
So I suppose next year when the good weather starts up again, we'll get you guys involved.
Absolutely. That's a good idea. Well, yeah, we'll get on it early.
Yeah, maybe we should meet before it starts in the summer, Dan, you know,
Sounds great to me.
Make a-
Absolutely. Yeah.
plan ahead a little.
Yeah, be ahead of it. Yes. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. But other than that, that's about it. And as far as that parked car, if there's cars parked on the sidewalk, feel free to call. I'll keep an eye out for it. I drive by there quite a bit, but I'm not always looking for illegally parked cars. It's just not my vision anymore, but I'll keep an eye on that property. And that's an easy one for us. We slap a ticket on it.
Thanks, Dan. Ray, you've got your hand up if you want to go next.
Yep, thanks, Hyde. I don't know if this is a question for Officer Webster or maybe Mike. I turned in, you brought up Westland Hills, and it reminded me, I put a request in yesterday. The lights at the end of Germain going into the park are out, lights that are actually in the park. And I'm afraid they're post tops, meaning it's underground cable. And I'm afraid there's a series of lights out. So I'm afraid the cable is bad because it's kind of a safety concern for the folks at the end of Germain. And you want to keep that end of the park lit up. Can the APD escalate that with DGS to get that repaired? Or maybe Mike?
Yeah, you know, my understanding is, you know, originally the city handed that all over to planning, which really didn't have the capacity. You know, they contracted out one big contract for the installation of everything. But my understanding is the city has a new contract with someone to actually do the maintenance now that all the new LEDs are installed and the city owns them.
I think it's
I don't
Candel.
have, but I would say probably send the notice to Sergio and to Dave Gallen in the mayor's office, because it was Dave who advised us that they have a contract with somebody to do this routine maintenance such as that, and they totally took it out of the planning department. So that's the best advice which I could give on that. I mean, Sergio would probably know if you sent it to him and to Dave Gallen, they would refer it to whomever is actually working for the city on, you know, routine streetlight repair rather than brand new installation.
Yeah, I think they hired Candela, but it's a pretty involved repair, and they just, you know, you want to get those areas lit up, you know. But
Yeah.
I'll ask Dave Gallen on the request I sent to DGS and see if he can escalate it. So thanks, Mike.
Okay.
All right. Anybody else question for Officer Webster? Looks good. All right.
Thank you. Thank
Officer
you.
Webster, thank you for joining tonight.
Thank you.
Next, I think we'll hop over to Ray. Ray, if you could just maybe comment on some of the National Grid work that's taking place in the neighborhood and any info you may have on that.
Sure. Yeah, as many of you have reached out to me, and many of you are aware, National Grid, I'm on the electric side of the house, but we also have the gas side, and they're doing a lot of gas main upgrades along the upper Washington Avenue corridor. They started with Washington Avenue from Manning, heading up towards the campus. And they've been doing the side streets. They've did Winthrop last year. They did Homestead in front of Zach's house this year, and they're going to move up this. They're supposed to move right up the side streets, just even past Colvin Avenue. I did ask for a copy of the schedule of streets and when they plan to target those. I don't have it yet, Hyde, but when I get it, I'll send it to you and you can copy the neighborhood association. It's a messy process. Anybody that's seen it can probably attest that it raises havoc for property owners for a week or two, but we've been coordinating pretty well with the city of Albany. If you look at Winthrop Avenue as a model, we do repaving. They put in new curb lines. Many times they repave the street. There's a lot of new trees they've planted on the street. The paving, I know Joe had reached out to me about Washington Avenue because there was that dip as you exited the side streets onto Washington. They do put down an initial patch, which they have to let settle before they put in the final patch. So you're going to see that. I think they did the final patch on Homestead, but that's going to continue probably for the next 2 years up in that neighborhood. And I'll send you that schedule, Hyde, as soon as I get it.
Awesome. Thank you.
And I will attest, it is a mess on your street. It is a big mess, and it's a big hassle. You got to get people in your house, and they're drilling holes through your walls and whatever. However, these guys are all professionals, and they're very keen to make sure that they are keeping their customers happy. I thought they did a great job,
I agree.
but it's a lot of work.
I
I mean, these poor guys, digging holes in the ground and climbing down in and running new gas lines, and I mean, it's a lot of work, and it's a great investment in our infrastructure. So I appreciate what they're doing. Yeah, it's a big mess, but they fix it in the end too.
They're very pleasant. They're very accommodating. If you go out and talk to them, they're very professional in how they're approaching the neighbors, because they realize it's upsetting to try to drive up your street and there's dirt everywhere and there's holes in your lawn, and I can't wait till it's all done.
But anyway, Ray, they are doing a good job.
Ray,
Bill.
any word on Breveter from Washington to Western? Like any plan for that paving or it's one big pothole.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, that was a major project. I got to see it this year, but they're going to repave that, and I thought they were going to boulevard. I know they, and it should be. We haven't gotten, like the budget gets released on October 1st, and that'll have all the paving stuff and the paving schedule. But that is definitely one of them, and it's going to be extensive. It's going to be an attempt to repave it, and I think like recurve it and make it more like a boulevard. But I think there's like a temporary fix going in now because I know the concrete was crumbling, and they actually have part of it temporarily barriered, like a lane of it, close to the Washington barrier now. But they allow two-way traffic.
Right. Yeah, Mike, I think once the budget does come out, if we could maybe send the scheduled street repairs out to the neighborhood association.
Yeah.
So we'll send that out. Mike, maybe staying on the city updates, if you have any other common council city related updates that you wanted to share, can give you the floor.
Well, the budget comes out on October 1st, which is Friday. It's interesting, because the city has been granted in recovery money $81 million, which covers 4 4 years of time. And the mayor put together a task force which came up with a report, but the report is very generic. You know, it more went into, you know, categories of, you know, not just capital improvements, of which there were a lot. And they were talking about a greater increase in DGS street paving and sidewalk repair, but it didn't actually specify where. And then it also talked about a lot of other things like expanding 5G coverage in the city to underserved areas, and but no specifics at it. But we're waiting for the budget to show where we might be getting some of that. Obviously, they don't spend 81 million in 1 year. But since it's over 4 years, I suppose we can expect at least $20 million of impact. But some of it's to cover lost revenues. And I know there was a loss of revenues in sales taxes. And then some of it was the city had expenses, you know, obviously with people working from home and, you know, masking and all, because I know, well, last year, and I think into this year, they were giving out a lot of free supplies for sanitizers and masks, which we had never budgeted for previously. So some of the money is going to recoup losses. And then some of the, you know, we are told a significant increase in, you know, capital improvements, namely streets and sidewalks. But we won't see anything more specific until the end of the week.
Thank you. I'll kick it over to Zach if you want to do a Cana update, Cana plug.
Sure. Hey, everybody. One thing I just wanted to talk about that was discussed at Cana's meeting was this new Albany Police Community Liaison program, where the new recruits are going to be starting, I think, in a couple of months, maybe November. And what they want to do is pair new recruits with members of the community in each of the 15 wards throughout the city, and almost have like a mentoring program where, you know, you spend, I think it's going to be not a big amount of time, like an hour a week with a new recruit to show them, you know, meeting new people, kind of getting them used to where they're going to be working before they actually get out of the academy. So that's good. So that's going to be coming up. There's actually going to be a forum that Cana is going to sponsor with ACPAC, the Albany Community Police Advisory Committee, because they're going to be also helping out canvas for potential volunteers for the program. So that's something that's really good. Yeah, just some future meetings coming up. Next Wednesday, we have a few speakers. We have Betsy Mercoliano. She's the co-founder of BirthNet. It's a local organization that focuses on birth justice for women of color. And then we have Maria Markovich. She's the co-chair of Housing for All, which is a local group that focuses on affordable housing. Let's see, Bakari Fox, she's the founder of Community Matters. It's a local organization that leads neighborhood cleanups and other items. So they're coming. And then, let's see, November, we're actually going to have 3 common council members that are retiring this year. Our very own Mike O'Brien is going to be on, as well as Judy Doche from the 9th Ward, and then Richard Conti from the 6th Ward. We're just going to have a community conversation looking back at how many years, Mike? Almost 20? About 20? So that'll be great. December, we're going to do our neighborhood go around. We're going to have several neighborhood leaders talk about what their neighborhood associations did in 2021. And then January, we have Darius Schoenfar, the city treasurer, and Dr. Dorcia Pleers, the city auditor, presenting. And in February, we have Mayor Shan going to be doing her state of the city. I think that's about it.
Great. Thank you for the update, Zach.
Sure.
So immediately next meeting's next week, right? Wednesday?
Yep, 6:30.
Awesome. I do have a couple announcements for Westland Hills. So as many of you know, there were playground updates that were proposed. We had a lot of back and forth with the city and their contractor, and we did come to an agreement on a design. The equipment's been ordered, but they're currently at Ridgefield Park. So our new equipment's not in yet. So they still have to schedule when the work will take place. May not be this season, so could end up being in the spring. But if I hear any more information, I'll pass that along. And then I also sent an announcement. Westland Hills baseball and softball has a Angels Remembered Holiday Memorial Tree Lighting, where you actually purchase a tree for $75, and it'll be placed on one of the fields, and everyone can go and decorate, and they'll be able to light the tree, and there'll be a lighting ceremony on November 28th. So that's the Sunday after Thanksgiving. And people will be able to go and look at the trees during the holiday season. So that's kind of a new event this year. And I think that's it for Westland Hills.
Oh, a quick question with that one. Is that going to be open then like every night for people to come in for a period of time and look at the trees? And do you have to pay a fee to look at the trees?
I'm not sure if you have to pay a fee or if the nights are limited, but certainly available for people to go in and view. Yep.
Yeah, Mike, I'm trying to help Dan with that project. We've got the IBW 236 going to do all the installations. We're picking up the materials hopefully next week. Intent is those lights would be put on a timer. There's gonna be 100 trees. It should be a pretty moving tribute to see all those trees lit up over there. The funding they're going to earn from this hopefully will be a continuous fundraiser they do every year. But I think Dan Farrell's intent was to lock the field every night, but you'd be able to go over there and walk among the trees each night. But they had not talked about a fee for that. So I think just the pure fundraising piece of it will be the folks that adopt trees for their family members and loved ones. So
Sounds like a
I'll
great
find out.
idea. Sounds like a
Yeah.
great idea.
I have a question on that. They have a power source year round there, or would they be doing generators?
Nope, they have power. We went over to scope it out. There's power coming out of the concession stand to that first dugout on the softball field, and from that panel, they're going to run cables out to the field. We have it built so you can only do LED lights, so we don't blow any fuses. So 100 trees, strands of incandescent lights we just wouldn't have enough power over there. So Dan Farrell, I said, Dan, sure they use LEDs only because it's just not enough power at the ball field, but no generation, Karen.
Good. That would be noisy.
Yeah,
Cool.
I agree.
Good.
Sounds like a great idea.
Yeah. Well, hopefully that's successful, and thank you, Ray, for sponsoring that event. I think it's going to be great to have that. Finally, we do have some Rosemont neighbors on here. So I know Paul had sent me a note potentially talking about traffic issues and the recent work that was done, and I know Peg's on here as well. So Paul, I didn't know if you still wanted to kind of
Sure. Thanks, Hyde. And Mark is
And
here
Mark.
too. Yeah. I said to Hyde today, just some general observations about traffic, and I haven't put anything in writing at this point. So I will send something to you, Hyde, and to Zach and Mike. And if you want to float that out to the larger group, that would be terrific. I think part of it has to do with the wonderful job they did with Rosemont, and it has been a wonderful job. I echo what the Cunniff said about it, because we had the gas and the trees and the paving and all of that, and it's been quite a project, and all the people who did it are quite wonderful and professional. But our Rosemont Street, and Pay can attest to this, kind of looks like a landing strip at Albany Airport. It's a real invitation to speed over from Washington to Lincoln. But our little street isn't the only one. We sit and see what happens on Washington Avenue, all the way from the exit from 90 downtown, and the calming influence that the city managed to provide on Madison Avenue, parallel street, seems to be something that should be looked into for Western and Washington and Central. And I'm not an expert in that, except that I love Madison Avenue now because of the fact that it has been calmed. And I would hope that there's a way to deal with the wild traffic on all the parallel streets and help people observe 30 miles or under, which they certainly don't do at this point. So that's just off the top of my head. I will send out a note, and if anybody wants to get together and talk about how to, whom to approach and what maybe we would request, that would be great. And I'd be open to that. So thanks, Hyde.
No, thank you. And I know, Washington Ave Extension is part of, the master bike and pedestrian plan and potential improvements. Unfortunately, Mike, I think it's pretty low on the priority, but you're on mute, Mike.
Actually, Hyde and Zach and I submitted a proposal at least a year ago, maybe even longer. And it got recognized in the plan, but not as high a priority as, maybe it deserves. And I know the mayor asked each council member to submit what they think is, a list of the capital improvement needs, and I certainly put that on it from what I sent to her in October. That has great, and actually in the Pinebush, there's some really walking hazards because frontage road, which is what the Teresian House and Daughters of Sarah, you have to go on frontage road off of Washington Avenue, has no streetlights, no walking path. And the employees, many of them, walk that to get over to the bus at Walmart. And in the winter, there's no lighting, it's really dangerous. Same thing with Rapp Road, Pine Lane, that's awful Rapp. So hopefully they did acknowledge it and list our recommendations in the plan that was adopted by the city, but the priority, I think it should have been more of a higher priority.
But I think, as long as we continue to bring it up, and, Paul, I think it'd be great to, see your comments and get together with other people and keep submitting them, because that's the only way. If we let it slide, it just kind of gets put on the back burner and nothing gets done. So I think it's great that we're interested in that and to continue to push to make improvements. It'll be good.
Great.
So with that, I will open it up for final 5-minute comments here. Joe, you're on mute.
I just wanted to mention to Paul that I agree with him about the calming of traffic on all the parallel roads to Madison, Central, Washington. It seems as though people look at the decreased speed limits as a problem from them, and they go to the other roads. It's like squeezing a water balloon. Everyone's going to go to the roads where they can travel the fastest to get where they're going, especially commuters, out of town commuters. So, I agree with you that we should try to do something about calming the traffic on all of those parallel connectors, so they're not speedways. Ray Joyce, who's going to take on the naming for the Times Union Center? Do we have any takers? That's our cat.
RFP is going out today. it was going out this week, I should say. Yeah, that brings in, the naming rights brings in about $350,000 a year. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw some national brand on there. And I know we used to have the Pepsi on there. But yeah, for those that don't know, it's no longer going to be the Times Union Center. I like the Knickerbocker Arena, but there's too much money at stake. I'm sure they're going to, McCoy's got a plan to send out the RFP and see who we get.
I hope you can find somebody. That would be good. And
Yeah.
that ends my comments.
All right, thank you. Anybody else?
I just wanted to say that Victor Street's going to have its first block party on October 10th with the help of Hyde and Mike. Thank you so much. And the person who initiated this is my next door neighbor, Victor. She moved in sometime right before the pandemic, and she's an older person, a Vietnam veteran, and she wants to know her neighbors. So she had a little party this summer in her backyard and invited everyone on the street, and about 8 or 9 people came. And she said, next, I want a block party. So I helped her with some of the logistics, and it's fun to actually have people emailing us and calling us back, and all ages. And so I'm looking forward to it, and I'll be happy to report on it in the next time we have a meeting. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for your help.
No problem.
Patricia, do you have to live on Victor Street in order to go?
I don't know the answer to that. I'm a
We're gonna
novice.
crash it.
We're crashing Victor Street.
Oh,
That's done.
good.
Well, I'm gonna plan on showing up.
Yeah.
Good, Mike.
I
Maybe
hope
we-
you come, Mike. We'll have a hot dog for you.
Good.
And so, Patricia, you could just say the date again. It's October 10th.
May, October 10th. So that's the weekend of Columbus Day.
Perfect. All right.
Rosemont Street, Peg Harrigan here. Rosemont Street is doing ours on October 9th. And I'm certainly, Patricia, if you came by, I cannot imagine anyone. I'm not one of the 2 organizers. We didn't do it last year, but there are 2 women who had done it the year before, and they're going to do it again. I cannot imagine any neighbor stopping by who would not be welcome just to say hello. The one thing I know about these events is there's always food left over, and hey, we all want to get to know our neighbors. That's, I'm so glad that I was able to make it to this. But yes, so we're going to be a day ahead of you. So everybody needs to do whatever to make sure the weather is good. But whether it's raining or not, we live in a great part of town, and the neighborhood association keeps us on our toes and keeps us good neighbors. So October 9th, if you're coming by, I'm sure no one's going to say, oh, you can't come, you're not,
Right. I'll
Oh,
see
yeah.
how it's
We
done.
are.
I'll come and take some notes so I can see how it's done.
If you need anybody on the grill, Zach, just man the grill on Homestead. Volunteer his service.
That's the common theme after the block party was the grilled food. That was a first. So.
And Zach ordered up great weather too, so you just got to put in a word for those, Zach. All right, I think that is it. Thank you everybody for coming, and as always, if anybody has any questions, comments, concerns, send an email, give a phone call, and we'll keep on top of it.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Everybody have a good
Thank
night.
you, everybody.